You know what it is right here, the Remix Morning Show, that boom bap breakfast on Black Power Media. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and your host for today is Dr. Jared Ball, Burn It Down, Kim Brown, and Kamal K. Franklin. Let's go!
Yo,
What's going on?
that? What funkiness was that right there? I have to say, I don't recognize that.
Hey, that's another one of my people, Quazo's beats. So he got mad stuff in the stash.
Dang, okay, right on.
Man.
That was funky.
Yeah, that was funky. Right
I was
there.
getting us ready because I'm doing the top 5 soul singers today, just because.
Oh,
Not R&B pop soul singers.
No, because you got R&B. You gotta think about it. It was R&B, and then it was like soul music, and then R&B came back like in the 80s, and then neo soul came in the 90s. So it was like you got R&B, soul. It's like different categories. We're gonna break that down too.
I need the breakdown. I need that breakdown.
Me too. Are you going to include
He does
artists
too.
of today? Yeah.
You said what?
Are you including artists of today as well? Because I'm not up on the latest.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that as another category. We're gonna have to break that down by decades. You know what I mean?
Okay. Is anybody today messing with anybody in the past? Like, is
her? Her.
Okay. I'm not okay. I got to get caught up. Honestly, I'm not up on her.
Her is legit. Go back and watch her performance on Saturday Night Live. Like, that's when I kind of got hip to her.
Yeah.
Because she put her thing down, and I can't even front on Shorty. And she can play that electric guitar very well. Like, I mean,
right on.
She's a musician. She's a musician.
And I gotta say, Anderson .Paak. You gotta listen to his albums. You got some soulful.
Hey, some of those. Yeah. That's. Hey, but the Saturday Night Live, thankfully that comes on. You can get the recording because that's the live airing is definitely up past my bedtime. No way I'm seeing that joint live.
You don't get to stay up late on weekends.
Saturday is just another day over here. And then there's early morning soccer games the next day. So it's just
Sunday morning. They got your kids out playing soccer Sunday morning.
What? So when do they do chores? Like Saturday morning cleaning the house?
Oh man, so we have a nice little routine. So they have Friday mid-afternoon evening chore time.
What?
So yeah. Knock it out before the weekend, before the evening, and then they're usually clear for the weekend.
You run a tight ship.
They work all week. Hey, because look, the trade-off was my children are not going to learn how the importance of a hard work and contribute, through working through the propagandized mythology of working in the capitalist system. We are bougie enough that they don't have to work to support the household.
Okay.
So their way of learning, labor traditions is working in the house. So all week long they put in work. Because they're members of the house. So
you're not going to make them do that standard sort of 16-year-old work at a fast food place?
No,
learn the value of a dollar.
Not. No, I suffered that enough. I wouldn't impose that on them. No, they'll have to work. The plan was, the hope is still that if they have the jobs that they'll take are either internships in their career paths or working for me. I don't have an assistant. I don't have a teaching assistant, so I'm like, you could grade some papers over here and put that on your resume.
Did we finally get past the phase of where we got to put our kids and make them work as hard as we did, or we realized like, well, we worked this hard, so you don't have to work this hard? Because I am
past that phase. Yeah,
I was like, yo, I'd rather pay my kids to get good grades as an incentive than having them go get a job. Like, keep your grades up and I'll pay you. Bam, bam. Just a thought.
I mean, that's great when parents like adhere to that. I remember my parents trying to negotiate a similar deal, and then report card came and wasn't no bread. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to failing. How about that? Show
He
y'all.
walked off on that one. Yeah, I'll show you.
I'll show you. I'll come in this story with all F's, or in Howard County, it was giving out E's.
Right, E's. I remember the E. And I
E.
was like, why am I getting an E? Put an F on that joint. It doesn't even make sense.
What does an E mean? Yeah, what is an E? What is an E?
Because it went A, B, C, D, and they thought they were too good to go straight to F, I guess. They were like, we have to stick with the appropriate alphabet. We put an E on that joint.
But Jared,
for error.
I'm so encouraged. I mean, you and the missus are doing good stuff, because like I worked, but not necessarily to support the household. I worked because, you know, my single family, you know, single mother was supporting the household, but I didn't have no gear. You know what I'm saying? So I had to go out and get a job so I wouldn't get bullied at school, because
was it.
My guess wasn't guessing.
That was it. So that was the trade-off that I had as well, that it was, you know, my mother earned enough to keep us in, you know, suburban Section 8, you know, so I had, you know, some food and a roof. But if I wanted, for me, it wasn't even clothes. I wasn't even smooth like that. For me, it was like comics or some other, you know, goofy. So, you know, if I wanted that, you know, or later on when I started hanging out and was, you know, like given too much freedom. If I wanted to have some money in my pocket to do whatever, I had to have a job. And then, of course, the job also became, the flip side was, and this is the other part that I want to keep them away from, the job also became a conduit into a whole other social world where you're also exposed to fully adult working people who have their own social worlds and interests that don't really need to be blending with teenagers. Certainly teenagers who have certain tendencies towards mistake making. So like I was like it was like I had no business being out there, you know, like I was definitely one that needed to, you know, I didn't need all that freedom. So that's how we're trying to do it. Like if you're going to learn the value of work, because you got to work, but for your own, you know, trying to set it up for your own interests, your own, you know, career and family interests, and then, you know, you got to learn how to take care of your house. You got to wash some clothes, do some dishes.
You'd be surprised. I mean, a lot of whole ass adults are out here very much lacking them skills. You know what I mean? Like people, we take for granted that people know how to clean up behind themselves. They don't. They do not. They were not instructed properly. So yes, go balls.
Yeah. Go balls.
My first summer job, I was 17. I started working late, so we were just broke ass people in the projects, and stayed that way for a while. But my first summer job at a high school, I got to meet Janet Jackson, who was filming at that time. Again, it's gonna be dating me. No, there was no dating.
Fame? Was she filming
exactly.
Fame?
She was filming Fame. Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Kamal.
I gave her a little look, you know. I just gave a little. I don't think she noticed me as she passed by, but you know, I tried to do a little.
Now I had seen he tried
gave
to
it
give
a
her
look. Yeah, I gave it that. Hey, girl.
Man,
she was like this tall though. She's like 5'1".
When Janet showed up on Different Strokes, after I had only remembered seeing her as Penny, I was like, "Whoa!" That's when I was like, "Son, what is going on?"
That's true. Yeah. Janet was Beyonce before Beyonce was Beyonce.
Yeah, man.
Janet was
absolutely.
Amen. Think about how many people actually tuned in for those specific episodes when you knew Janet was going to be on Different Strokes, or Janet was on Fame. It's like, nigga, fuck Fame. I'm watching Janet. Janet. That's it.
Yeah, no question. Absolutely. So anyway, what else is going on? How you all doing this morning, this fine morning? And greetings to everybody out in the chat that I'm not looking at, but I know you out there. So good morning.
Oh, that's why y'all wouldn't shout me out yesterday, because y'all making concerted efforts to stay out the chat.
Oh, honestly, I have, yes.
Particularly for Jared, our rule is to stay out the chat, because then that's how debates to begin. So it's, once in a while, we'll of course step in there because you can't help it. But for the most part, it's like leave the chat alone, because they got their own show going on anyway. They just use whatever we say is almost a jumping off point for them to have a discussion amongst themselves. So it's like, hey,
it's definitely when I do go back going on at the same
absolutely time. Yeah, I go back and look sometimes, and I'm like, wow, they were really it's a whole other universe over here. It's a whole No, but I'm, good, shout out to, no, I keep, just as I was saying a minute ago, there are certain limits that I am aware that I have, and you gotta, police yourself sometimes, so I'm delayed in the chat. I'll see you all later, but peace to everybody and greetings, and thank you all for joining us and getting this boom bap breakfast. Real quick before I forget, because I forgot to mention it the other day and yesterday, that in addition to what we're going to get to this morning, I did see the latest episode of Dope Sick and wanted to talk a little bit about medicine and or the pharmaceutical industry and class, because I think what this series is showing is actually making a pretty powerful point. I know we got some other stories as well, including later this morning. I wanted to raise this issue of the Bechdel test. I don't know if you've all ever taken or used the Bechdel test when assessing films, but that came up in a documentary, and it's something I've used in the classroom. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. I know we got China's Cold War. We're going to look at we were recently written up in a story in comparison with the Black News Channel, and apparently there are some struggles they're having with women and employment over there. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I mean,
they just started.
And then and on Friday we're having. I hope folks are going to be able to tune back in on Friday, because we're having the very special April Silver takeover of I Mix What I Like, where she's going to come back and talk more about the Howard University protests, which we're going to talk a little bit about this morning, because Jesse showed up.
Didn't he faint?
He fell. He had a little trip and a little yeah. But apparently he's negotiated a deal. So we're going to talk a little bit about that this morning. Yeah, apparently that's according to the Griot. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then yesterday I definitely wanted to raise, and I'm very glad Kamal is here. And for this one, it would have been even better if Kalanji was also here this morning, because yesterday was the anniversary of Assata's liberation. So I thought we could talk a little bit about that, and to our unofficial sister channel. What was it? The Afro Marxists had some of that news footage. So I thought we could take a look at some of that as well.
That'd be good. Yeah.
That was great to look at and kind of just smile at.
Great channel, by the way.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and some other stuff with the impact of media consolidation on local news. So just some things that I know I have, and I don't know if what the others might be bringing as well. But I did want to remind everybody that April's going to be here Friday for a full. She's going to, I think, be bringing student leaders from the Howard protests. She's be talking about also her history with the first hip hop conference. So getting into a whole bunch of stuff on Friday as well. So anyway, sorry, go ahead, Kim.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I mean, Howard is playing the game very dirty. I talked about this yesterday on my show. They tweeted not late, but late afternoon that the university tweeted from their official Twitter account that they had let go some Sodexo food workers from the cafe, and in a roundabout way blame the students for letting go of these workers, and talked about these are the unintended consequences of the students' actions. I'm like, really? Is this how we're playing the game, Howard? Jesus, that's big white folks energy, man. Save that.
No, right. That's fascinating. So horrible living conditions, but that you raise awareness of, but we'll fire some other folks. So
poorly paid workers.
So we'll definitely look. We got a lot to get into this morning, so definitely stick around, everybody. Make sure you're comfortable. Tell a friend. Tell a friend. Tell a friend. As Ear Doctor says. And speaking of which, it looks like he's back in school himself.
Thank the Lord. Finally.
Oh man.
Nice.
Yikes.
That was nice. I like that one, Kamal.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna break down top 5 soul singers. All right, y'all ready for this?
No.
Y'all better get ready. It's going down.
Sade, baby.
It's nice and smooth. Beautiful day, beautiful morning. Getting y'all ready. We on a hump day, almost headed towards the weekend. This is Black Power Media. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and y'all are tuned into the RemiX Morning Show. In case y'all didn't know, yo, here's what you do. You go to the bottom of that page, you hit that like, that subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend. That's right, it is on again, and we do this. So, also patreon.com, go ahead, go there, Black Power Media, drop some change in the bucket, and we gonna love it. You know what I mean? So, with that said, we're gonna go ahead and take y'all to school today. Now, we talked about soul singers and the different eras because back then you had race music, and then right after race music you had R&B music. R&B music was a mixture of rhythm and blues, and then you had the whole soul aspect of it that came in with it too, when you had people like Aretha, James Brown, and how it kind of mixed and then faded out into the disco era, and then the disco era brought back in the 80s hip hop and R&B, where you had people like Luther Vandross and different people like that coming in with the R&B. And then it faded off. Hip hop came in strong in the 90s. And then in the mid 90s, you had a whole bringing back of neo soul, which I consider hip hop. You got rap music, you got underground. So we look at soul music as the underground, and we look at R&B as the, the popular hip hop. So let me get to it. All right, how do we break this down real quick? I'm going to start right here with one of my top five, no other than the sister Nina Simone. Nina Simone had 19 studio albums, 14 live. Now, do you break down the artist that sings with their range as a category, originality and sound, and the last one, sales or material? Now, sales can be an asterisk. And then the feel of the music can also be an asterisk because it depends on what that artist made you feel. So that's the one thing about this. When we always debate who's the top, we don't go off numbers. We go off feelings, and people got different feelings. So who's we going to go to next? Let's go to no other than Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder, he had 23 studio albums, 4 live albums, 3 soundtracks, and 11 compilations. Stevie Wonder, as we know, is one of the greats. Who we going to go to next? No other than Al Green. Al Green had 29 studio albums, 1 live, 29 compilations. Okay, who do we go to after that? No other than the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, 38 studio albums, 6 live albums, 62 compilations, and 131 singles. And last but not least, we got to go to the Godfather of Soul, James Brown. 59 studio albums, 15 live, 49 compilations, and 2 soundtrack albums. That's right. That's my top 5. What's your thoughts on that? Right here at the RemiX Morning Show. Let's go. Yeah.
I stepped away. Who's that first one you named? Who's the first one?
Nina Simone.
Nina Simone.
I didn't hear Marvin Gaye.
You're right. You did.
No, the list is flawed. No, the list can't be a list because not only Marvin is a good one, but there's no Donny Hathaway. So there is no list.
Okay, so
if we're going anything without Donny Hathaway on it.
Like I said, going back to taking your feelings away, are we going on how many albums they did?
We're going on how we're not. No, we're not going on quantity. We're going on quality.
Nina Simone is more jazz, blues. How you get Nina Simone in soul category? Jazz, blues.
How? Kamal's asking the right question.
How she get soul?
Kamal was asking the right question.
That's
okay. How did she get in soul? Did you hear? Okay. How do we define soul music? It's almost like Mahalia Jackson. We would say gospel, but it's soulful. It's almost like that feel of soul. Am I wrong here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, gospel, yes, because it is gospel. I mean,
Yeah, you named the
Gospel's
category,
gospel.
then you wanted to
Gospel's not
stretch it
soul.
out.
And I don't make distinctions between R&B music and soul music, but I feel where
Right,
Kamal's coming
right.
from, specifically about Nina Simone, because her training was so classical and jazz. Like she doesn't she herself is soulful, but I wouldn't categorize what she does as soul music. Like I'm like, where's Etta James and Sugar Pie DeSanto showing it?
That's
Because you want to talk
interesting.
about soul, because Etta James, I'll throw on some Etta James right now, have everybody on the floor. Honestly, like
What would we consider Etta James when we say she's all like jazz too?
No,
No.
R&B soul, honey. That's that 1950s, 1960s.
I guess it
R&B
depends
soul.
on the song, because you got Stevie Wonder that did R&B. You got Stevie Wonder that did soul music. You got
But I don't
pop
understand
music by Stevie Wonder.
how do you differentiate between soul and R&B? This is my main
That's
question.
the question.
I'm asking you, sir. What
You
is-
asking me?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. It's like rhythm and blues or R&B is almost like a standard where you're gonna have a chorus line and you're gonna have a verse. Where you got soul music, you ain't gotta have a verse. You could just get on there. I mean, a chorus. You could just get on there and groan and moan. Maybe that's the distinction. What do y'all think? Think about it.
No,
Not complete.
and
I
you
think
don't
there
have Donny
is-
Hathaway on the list, so it
That's
don't
all he
matter
cares
what
about.
you
He's back
call
to
it.
Donny.
I mean, come on, I was gonna put Donnie on there, but I was looking at the numbers of the albums and stuff like that. So if we're not gonna do that, that's why we can take like
Curtis
Lauryn Hill off
Mayfield,
the,
son.
Curtis Mayfield. That's another
No
good
doubt.
one.
Come on, we got a long
Teddy
list of different-
Pendergrass.
Teddy
Teddy
okay.
Pendergrass.
Lufa.
and
Whoa, Luther's R&B.
No, sir.
Yes.
A house is not a home.
Luther is R&B.
A house is not. Luther is not.
Come
strictly
on,
R&B.
yeah, he is. You do not think about soul music and be like, "Ooh, let me play some Luther."
yes,
I do.
No, you don't. Okay, you think about Sade
what
when
is-
you think of
what
soul.
is- so then what is her?
No.
Her is a mix of neo soul, R&B, trap soul. That's a whole nother category. Trap soul that y'all ain't get around to yet.
You're right.
That's like
Never-
Bryson Tiller
never
and
will.
different
It
people.
never
Y'all
will.
know about that yet.
And
Never
see,
will.
yeah, Doctor,
You're right.
I disagree a little bit with your chronology, the way you set it up, or when you began your list, because you said like mid '90s is when neo soul erupted, and I would venture it would be more like late '90s is when. Well, no, you're probably right, because that's when Badu
Erykah
was on
Badu.
and
Yeah.
D'Angelo and all. But at the same time you had Badu
Maxwell
and
was
D'Angelo
mid-90s.
and Maxwell. Yeah,
Yeah.
you also had SWV and TLC.
That was R&B.
Right, but they was at that. Okay,
That was-
okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
take your
considered,
point. I take your point. Okay.
You should
About
do.
that.
You should
And
do
just to
top
be
5
clear,
neo soul. Top 5
All
neo
of that
soul.
SWV stuff is Ron G, the mixtape king, Ron G's inspiration that Puffy and them stole, because it was Ron G who first was putting R&B soul singers on hip hop beats and spawned that whole joint. So shout out to the mixtape tradition and the mixtape DJs.
DJ Juice.
That's it. I just would put that out there real quick.
Clue.
You know,
All right.
One good thing.
Clue
from the chat,
came
somebody
later and
mentioned
messed up
Otis
the
Redding.
game, but yeah, I'm sorry.
Otis
say that
Redding.
again.
I
Otis
mean,
Redding.
Sam Cooke. You got a bunch of people.
Oh
but
my
let's talk
God,
numbers.
you're crazy. That's right. What am I saying?
Well, Sam Cooke doesn't have enough albums for
That's
either
what I'm
doctors.
saying. Do the
Sam Cooke
math.
probably has the greatest soul voice of all. Where you going?
Oh wow, there you
How
go.
wrong
can
with
you,
you?
how can you discount
That's what happens
Sam
when you
Cooke
don't have
or
an
Otis
argument.
Redding? Like you can't discount people who died when they was 30. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's not their fault
Apparently
they
you
didn't put
can
out
when you're
12
the ear
albums.
So,
So-
we gonna say
there
that.
you go. Come back here.
So we gonna say that Jimi Hendrix was the best rock and roll. How many albums he put out? Like 2 or 3? We gonna say
That's rock and roll guitarist
we
of
gonna
all
say
time.
Lauryn Hill is the best. How many albums she put out? We gonna say Biggie Smalls is the best. How many albums he put out?
I've already told you Lauryn Hill is not the best, and I already told you that Maimouna Youssef and her new album is better than
Anyway, I'm done with him.
whatchamacallit, Lauryn Hill's album. And
But
I just forgot my thought.
anyway, that's what I'm
Good,
saying.
good.
Biggie
I'm
only
glad.
got 2 albums. Lauren only got a couple albums, 1 album, 2 albums, one that she didn't even have no beats. I mean,
Jimmy had more than a couple. Don't forget, because Jimmy also put out a couple albums to satisfy a record contract, which actually became some of the best that we got with the Band of Gypsies with his all black band.
So y'all help me make these categories then, because it gotta be.
No, we'd rather fight with you once you do it. Don't ask for
Okay,
cool. That's not the point.
Just put Donny Hathaway on it, and then I don't care what you call it. We're good.
Donnie's on there. Donnie's on there. He's. We'll take off. Donnie's 6.
I say trade Nina Simone for Etta James / Sugar Pie DeSanto.
Oh no.
I'd say Sam Cooke got to be on that. You got to. I mean, somebody got to get knocked off. For Sam.
And we're not gonna put. We're not gonna put. What's the girl? Gladys Knight. She could be.
No.
Soul or R&B.
Oh, she's soul, but that's not on the top 5.
Not top 5.
I
love Gladys,
but not.
Yeah. That's rough though, because Gladys to me is right behind Aretha. It's like Gladys, Aretha, Patty, and people don't like that. People want to say Patty's higher. It's like Patty's a little lower of that generation.
I think because Patty had the more successful solo career, more so than Gladys Knight.
Yeah, but I think she's. The Pips. What did the Pips do? They pipped.
I want to say shout out to Mary Clayton and all the sisters in 20 Feet from Stardom, which is a documentary everybody should see. Because Mary Clayton, and what they told her basically was, you can't have a career because we already have Aretha Franklin. And that's why her career never, as a soloist, never went where it should have gone, despite her having a voice that is clearly.
Who's the black woman that sings the Christmas song? They put her on like Jay Leno.
She's in there too.
I know, but I can't think of her name. It's a wonderful documentary, 20 Feet from Stardom. It's really good. And of course, Lisa Fisher, the incomparable Lisa Fisher, is in that doc also. But what is
and because of that, please go to imixwhatilike.org and check out our classic interview with Lisa Fisher. We got her not only to come on our radio show, but we got her to sing.
Damn, Jared, I didn't know you was big time.
Man, I didn't know either. I just reached out on Twitter. Every once in a while, you just shout out somebody on Twitter, and you never know what's going to happen. And one of her people, I guess, said we can make it work. And I was like, what? Stop playing.
That's a big deal. That is
a big deal
right there, baby.
So, but anyway, who's somebody in the chat got to know who we're talking about, because she killed it, because she was in Lethal Weapon too.
Darlene Love is her name.
There it is.
Oh, yeah.
And they talk about, man, Phil Spector did her wrong, boy. Did her career real wrong. Yep. So anyway.
You know what's wild, who never gets mentioned in any of these discussions, although she had hit after hit, is Diana Ross.
Because she can't really
sing. I know, yeah.
Yikes.
But hit after hit after hit, supreme solo career. But you're right. I agree with you, but a weak-ass voice. But sustained over 30 or 40 years, 20 or 30 years, 20 years of music career.
She has some hits, don't get me wrong, like Muscles and Theme from Mahogany and Love Hangover and Upside Down and I'm Coming Out. She had some hits, but I don't
never hear nobody ever says Diana Ross top 5 of anything.
Maybe dressing, fashionista.
Eyelashes at the time, I don't know. No one gives her anything beyond that.
Nope.
Top 5 for famous children, maybe stars with famous children. Would she make that? That's actually interesting. Stars top with 5. Famous children. Would she make top 5 with that? With Tracy?
Top 5 Ellis? Gary Gordy mistresses, maybe.
Oh, yikes!
Hey, come on,
yikes! Here we go. Here come Brooklyn Kamal. Let's go. Let's spin the globe. Let's get into some news and get away from Brooklyn Kamal and come back to the Remix Morning Show here at Black Power Media.
Oh man,
there we go.
These people in the chat hilarious.
I bet.
Somebody in the chat said that Diana Ross's daughter got a top 5 donkey. I threw in donkey. They didn't say donkey, but they meant donkey.
who was it the comedian? I think it was Earthquake who was talking about that, and was talking about how the late great Paul Mooney ruined his chance to spend some time with that donkey. Apparently, that he blocked Earthquake from a chance to spend some time. Apparently, Tracy was feeling his jokes, and he was hoping to build on that. And Paul Mooney interrupted. So I don't know. I don't know. I have to take folks' word on that. I don't know.
I mean, you could be funny. That don't mean you're gonna get ass. I'm not sure if that's a direct correlation.
Kamau knows all about it.
Hey, look, I watch Comedy Hype. I talk about it here all the time, and he gave an interview there and went into full detail on that story. And he was convinced that his game was being laid down perfectly, and that indeed his laughter was going to lead to some other things later on, until Paul Mooney was apparently jealous and interrupted that. So
jealous
anyway.
Anyway, you know what? I'm gonna leave
or protective, or concerned, or yeah, I don't know.
Why would Paul Mooney be jealous?
That's
hey. You know what? I mean, there are aspects about Paul Mooney that we have not fully explored. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm missing what documentary was this, Jared? Like where there was mention about him. It had to do with Richard Pryor, right?
I don't know about a documentary, but Rashawn, I just talked about him the other day. Richard Pryor's former bodyguard was one of the main people who talks about this on Comedy Hype. He gives an interview, says that Paul was not only gay, but that the falling out that he had with Richard Pryor was over Paul making an advance on Pryor's son, apparently.
Underage son, I believe, at the time, or young son. Yeah.
So that was the accusation. And then, of course, Paul's sons have come out to strongly refute that claim.
How would they know? Like, I mean, it's so odd to me.
Well, their argument is, how would the bodyguard know?
How would the bodyguard know?
But they're saying, no, I tend to agree with you, Kim. I'm just saying their argument is this is all being said second and third hand. So that being a bodyguard isn't necessarily going to give you that kind of,
Does
insight.
the bodyguard have a book coming out?
No,
I don't think so. I think he just gives these interviews when asked and when you can catch him. But yeah, anyway,
anyway, yes,
it's all uncomfortable and terrible.
Yes.
And I hope it's not true, and I hope that if it is, everybody has gotten the requisite help that they need to clearly have to come back over that. Anyway, so one thing that I wanted to this came up, and honestly, I can't even remember where I saw this the other day, but it was mentioned in something I was watching, and it reminded me of something that I had actually used in a class a couple of years ago, which was very interesting. So I don't know, are you all familiar with this Bechdel test?
I am not.
That was created. Yeah, go ahead.
No, okay. That's what I was going to spell it out, but then you put it on the screen. So yes, I've seen the word, but I'm not familiar with what it is.
So the short of it is, it comes from this woman here, Alison Bechdel, who had a comic book strip, Dykes to Watch Out For, and it's based on some writings, older writings of Virginia Woolf. But the short of it is, it's a critique of the way women are portrayed in film, in popular fiction, as it's described here. And as this chart shows, just in terms of popular films in the United States and how women are treated in those films, and they only are assessing here women who have speaking roles. And it shows that over time, you can see here, even in terms of the protagonists in film, from films, even more recent films from 2010 to 2013, only about 3% or so had women as protagonists in the film, and so on. But the essential criteria are pretty simple for the Bechdel test. And then we created variants in my class that allowed students to explore some other themes, which was very interesting. But the essential point is, does the movie have at least two women in it? Do these two women talk to each other? And then is that conversation about something other than men? And what you find, and what was referenced in this documentary, and this is why I'm mad I can't remember where I saw it and then could verify this latest, but they were saying that a recent study of this was even done again, showing that at least 50% of films in a recent year that were released did not satisfy this criteria. And they had actually created a slight variant to it and added that the women characters had to have names. So they couldn't even just be characters who spoke on screen about something other than men. They had to actually have names that were identifiable. And that's how I think they reached this 50% threshold, which is still, I mean, it's pretty crazy to think of it that way. But it was also interesting because in the class we did some things where I allowed students to change the criteria to fit some particular interest of theirs, just to see what was coming up in media that they were or not in media that they watched. And it was pretty revealing in terms of what people were seeing and not seeing when they not only when the variable was women, but when the variable was, black women or brown women or black gay women or, all kinds, when those variations change, then the percentages obviously get really low. Mm-hmm. And then you can start. So anyway, so that was I just thought it would be interesting to bring up again. And I just wish I could remember where I just saw this thing, because the reference at least, but so that's that. That was that. It's just an interesting.
What class do you bring this up in, Jared? What's the name of the class?
Well, the class I was teaching at the time was just, I believe, it was just in my intro to media. So this would have been like a media literacy, which I always rebranded as critical media literacy or anti-colonial media studies or something like that. But basically intro to media studies type courses. Got it. And then sometimes when, or if, one time I did a course on violence in film, and we did a version of this in there as well. Because the point of the class was actually pretty interesting. It was to assess who are the victims, not just how much violence, but who comprise the victims. And often they're women. Often they are nameless Black and brown people, like the spooky Arabs in the background, or the thugs or whatever. And it's pretty wild. So when people stop looking at, because in many ways young people are desensitized to the amounts of violence. So you just say, well, then who's being killed? And it kind of makes them say, oh, well, that's an interesting. I don't care that people's heads are getting chopped off and blood is splattered all over the place. But when you ask me to actually think about who it is, anyway. By the way, lastly, I'm sorry, because that was the year that Nate Parker film came out. On Nat Turner, and we used that film because I wanted to make the point that in a film about a Black uprising where whites were victims, none of those victims died on screen, and that was you see some blood throw up on the wall, but almost all of the on-screen violence were suffered by Black people,
which is standard Hollywood affair in some ways. Obviously,
because you want white people to go see it, so they don't want to see themselves getting killed, especially by their enslaved property.
It's gonna make them uncomfortable.
Be too reminiscent of what happened. It's like, wait a minute, is that how Jim at work thinks about me? Anyway, and yes, he does. By the way,
yes, he does.
In case anyone was wondering,
but now I have to go back and look at some of these films and that I like that. I really liked, and see the percentages of women who actually do now talk to each other, not about men, as in terms of fully developed characters or even characters who have other things in their lives. I'd never heard of that test before.
I mean, I can't stand the consistent and persistent trope through a lot of so-called romantic comedy movies about the forlorn single woman, the unmarried woman. How is she going to find a man? And these themes are prevalent in both movies aimed for Black and white audiences, and it's very. It's nasty shit. Like, I watched for the first time maybe several months ago. For the first time, I watched When Harry Met Sally, because sometimes I like to try to catch up on Americana, like stuff that was so pervasive throughout mainstream American culture that I totally ignored at the time. So I sat down and watched When Harry Met Sally. It is the dumbest. It's such a stupid movie with Meg Ryan. First of all, Billy, really? We're going through all this over Billy Crystal? Number one. Meg Ryan is like, I'm 35 and I'm not married. I'm like, oh my God, are these the messages that young women in the 80s were being sent? Jesus Christ, no wonder.
80s,
And that movie was a
70s,
huge
60s.
hit.
Yeah,
Huge
it was huge. Yeah.
It's a
So
terrible movie. It is a god awful, terrible Caucasian movie. Don't let your white co-workers talk you into watching When Harry Met Sally, because it is not worth your time at all.
damn.
I get that one confused with the other one. Isn't she in another one where Tom Hanks is basically she became the queen of white rom-com for a while,
Sleepless
right?
in Seattle.
Sleepless in Seattle, yeah. And which one she did the fake orgasm? That was in Harry's Met Sally.
That was
right?
when Harry Met Sally.
Oh, okay. See, they all blend together. They all blend
Yes,
together.
they do. Just like all those Hugh Grant movies of the 90s and Julia Roberts movies of the 90s.
Although I will say I did enjoy 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
I don't even know.
It wasn't Julia Roberts. It was with the British guy. What's his name?
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant. And I forgot the actress, American actress.
Was it Keira Knightley? Because it's a brother in it too. Because the brother married the white girl who
4 Weddings and a Funeral?
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
No, you're thinking of
Notting
Kim's
Hill?
thinking of Kim's thinking of the Christmas movie.
Yeah. Is that Notting Hill?
No, now we got 3 different movies all crossing over here. So you got
the same fucking movie.
Hugh Grant, right? Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts were in Notting Hill. Keira Knightley marries the brother from all those other movies.
That's right.
In that Christmas movie with Liam Neeson, and they do the Mariah Carey Christmas song in that joint.
That's right. He allows his child to go stalk another child in the airport. Like, I'm like, this is big white folk shit. Like, what? You just gonna turn your little boy loose to go run after his little playmate in the airport?
Love Actually. Thank you,
Actually,
Dr. Haight. Thank you, Dr. Haight, texting in the bat phone. Love Actually. And then Kamal's talking about a separate film, Four Weddings and a Funeral was a whole other. So
I'm just trying to remember
but they all the same,
Andy McDowell, yeah, that's
yes,
okay,
yes,
semi-famous white actress, yeah,
yes.
That wasn't a bad movie though. Sorry, we way off the track.
All right, well, good.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But Jared brings up a really good point about what women dialogue about in movies, or what the dialogue I should say is written for women in movies, and it's so centered. It's very hetero-centered, first of all, and then again this forlorn tale of the single woman, a single unmarried. I'm trying to just find. Shut up! Like, can we see single women in fully complete lives, like being their best single husbandless selves? Like that is a thing, right? There's a lot of women out there like that. I would love to see.
Hold up, you all can't. No, we can't have that. Now that messaging. Now you're overcorrecting. We can't have messaging that encourages women to think that they can do this without us. So stop that.
What's wrong with you, Kim?
Kim is doing too far.
I know exactly where
we gotta shut that down.
Husbands are accessories. Husbands are accessories. Husbands are not necessities, ladies. And if you're a woman who likes men out here, you don't need one. Honestly, you can get. I
gotta check with my wife on that. I don't know if she would feel like I'm an accessory. A liability, maybe, but not an accessory.
Jared, if she wouldn't buy you clothes if you were not her accessory, sir. Now, if she had confidence in your ability to style yourself, sure. But no, you got to be out here looking good if you're gonna be on her arm, Jared Paul. Don't get that twisted.
Her arm candy.
That's right. Come on now. Come out. You think you're not arm candy out here? Gentlemen,
I know I am.
To be serious.
What are you talking about?
I'm a trophy husband, straight up. That's all I want it to be. Yeah.
That's right.
But I still think she would prefer a liability to accessory.
You know what I'm saying? No,
she's
you're
like,
wrong.
I gotta put him in something to make him less of a liability. That's what
wrong.
I think she's. That's it. There it is. Okay. One of the problems that we might have in learning our roles is because a new study. Something I haven't looked at, admittedly, in a while. This used to be sort of more in my wheelhouse, but media consolidation. But this report that came out actually at the end, last month, media consolidation and algorithms make Facebook a bad place for sharing local news. And I just wanted to bring that up very quickly. I mean, it's a pretty involved story, but where they go through some solid methodology of how they reach this conclusion. But the study basically just shows that much of what we might already know, that the dominance of Facebook and the preference for in Facebook's algorithm for national or international big news forces a lot of even local news outlets to try to capture audience to focus on those stories more than they would something happening right there in the neighborhood. So something that I know I've thought about and continue to sort of politically practically fantasize, if I can draw that contradiction, about what BPM would be able to do eventually, is to sort of fill some of these gaps. That it would be great if we were able to put or fund or help encourage or develop local news outlets that are targeting those communities with relevant information to help them move. The last thing for me on this is that, the late Glenn Ford, when he and I first met, this is one of the main issues that he introduced me to, that the consolidation in the media environment not only got rid of local news broadly, but particularly Black local reporting has been wiped out over the last 40, 50 years in particular, to a point where it's becoming more and more difficult in terms of, funded organized operations to do that kind of work. So it's, I think, something, that I'd like to see us be able to do more of, and I think is continues to be a problem, the void of which is filled by a lot of, social media stuff and I think, unsubstantiated gossip and opinion. So, but anyway,
well, online or otherwise, there is no, there aren't that many local Black newspapers or anything like that are substantive or well read, anymore. And obviously there's that history pre-segregation, but there's a history actually post that, where there was still local Black papers. I remember in New York, there were a couple that either you could go to tell some stories about activism work, what's happening in sort of a local politics and how it impacts the larger Black community. But you're right, that's all gone. Yeah.
A lot of the alt weeklies in a lot of major cities have also gone away. I know Baltimore City Paper, rest in peace, used to be a thing. It is no longer a thing. That really focused on hyper localization, especially people-centered stories. So yeah. And when we look at the media consolidation, obviously I come from a broadcasting background, and to see it happen in radio and television is continually disheartening, but also to see what replaces. So for example, I was not really the biggest fan of Tom Joyner, but I could appreciate what Tom Joyner did, bringing his brand of neoliberal politics to the urban AC airways. But at least he was coming with some information, right? And he has been replaced on a lot of these Radio 1 stations by Ricky Smiley. Now, listen, I'm sure Ricky Smiley is a funny gentleman, but I don't need to come to Ricky Smiley to hear about Black news of my community. And in addition to that, when you have these syndicated morning shows, particularly on Black radio, that is the first thing that goes, is the local news, the local access to information as to what is happening in your own community. Because if Ricky Smiley is broadcasting from Atlanta or Dallas or wherever he's from, and he's in 65 markets, there's no way Ricky Smiley can tell me what's happening in Baltimore that morning, right? And that's a problem to me. And I really think that, Radio 1 is not the only media company doing this, but their complicity in this is something that I've always found very bothersome.
Yeah. By the way, in terms of getting Black news, one valuable source that I'm referring to here is Richard Prince's journalisms, but he is unfortunately reporting that at the Black News Channel, 2 women are filing suit for unequal pay. Women at Black News Channel are routinely paid less than men in equivalent positions and forced to conform to sexist or misogynistic stereotypes about how women are supposed to behave. Ashley Fleet and Claudia Jean, pictured below, said in their class action suit. This action seeks to vindicate the rights of women employees at Black News Channel. So, Fleet said that about 6 months ago into her tenure while hosting the channel's morning show, a producer began berating Ashley in her earpiece. That berating included statements that Ashley was insufficiently feminine. She said her contract was terminated after she complained to the network's human resources department and was informed they no longer need a morning show host. In fact, BNC hired a new morning show host to replace Ashley less than 6 weeks later. So there's, obviously more. The full story you can get at Richard Prince's Journalisms, which is really still one of the best outlets. Richard Prince, for those who may not be aware, sort of a legend in Black reporting, and has been sort of housing his own outlet for a number of years now in keeping track of what's happening in Black media and journalism. And then this story I did see come out the other day, and thought I would bring it up here. So this is sort of the point that, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
She said this happened 6 months ago. How long has BNC been on the air? Like, have they been on the air a year?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know. They're new to me. I
think only after they got. Yeah,
it says, according to Wikipedia, it was founded in 2004. I can't imagine that's the most recent version of it, but this one launched on February 10th, 2020.
Right.
So
already. Oh man.
18 months in.
I'm sorry, Kamal. Did you
No. I was going to ask. Obviously, and Jared may be searching and have the owner's name, but as folks know, we've talked a little bit about their channel, like they're called the Black Station because they report on Black news, but the ownership structure.
Shahid Khan, of the Jacksonville Jaguars, is one of the chief investors. J.C. Watts, the former conservative Black conservative Republican congressman, is involved. The founder's name is Bob Brillante. Is it Brillante? But so these are, and he is either very white. Well, he's either white or a white Latino. I'm not really entirely sure, but Brillante could be. I don't know. He looks. I don't know. I'll show you. I'll let you all be the judge. But the point being is that that media that targets Black audiences is also often considered Black media, and it may not even whether it's Black owned or not, and it may not have relevant content in terms of the kind of politics or culture that Black people have or need. What's his name? The Black TV billionaire guy that
Robert Johnson?
No. The one who owns the Weather Channel and Cars TV. Oh man.
He used to be a comedian, right?
Yeah, and I can see his face. I used to watch him all the time.
He's bald. Yeah, he was never that funny.
And he just recently sued everybody, or tried, sued and had the Supreme Court rule even.
Come on, chat, do your job. Byron Allen. Thank you.
Byron Allen. Thank you very much.
Damn, Byron Allen's a billionaire?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. In part, but my point is in part because he what he owns is considered Black media, but it's the Weather Channel, Cars TV. It's commercial media targeting a broad white audience that his Black ownership. So in other words, anyway. So to me, what is happening to these women is reflective not only of whatever the target audience of BNC is, but of the structure itself, of it being the same replica of a commercial operation with the billionaire funder, the commercial investors, all that kind of, and then they, if they want a certain, if they're competing with Fox and MSNBC, then of course they're going to bring some of that same negative energy and including treatment of women. So.
And I'm just pointing out that's Byron Allen.
Oh, wow.
He just happens to be standing with his wife. I'm just pointing out that's Byron, in case for people don't recognize Byron and his wife.
So let me say this real quick. So I absolutely empathize and can understand where those young women are coming from. I worked at a media outlet that I won't name that I did have to file an EEOC claim against. And this is basically standard operating procedure for Black women and by extension women of color when you're working in broadcasting. There is an expectation like when the sister said that someone criticized her for not being insufficiently feminine, I can relate to that, okay? Because I don't come to femininity very easy. I don't do girly as very well. So I felt that. I felt a little hit for her to be criticized about that specific thing, because I have also heard such criticisms. Like, if I'm not dolled up, motherfuckers look at me like, what's wrong with you? Like, you on the rocks? I'm like, no, it's 7:30 in the morning. Like, I'm not exactly sure what you want from me, but
on the rocks.
It doesn't, unfortunately for these young women, and I hope that this is not their experience, but the squeaky wheel does not necessarily get the good attention, right? If you have raised indefinitely publicly concerns about mistreatment or discrimination, especially within media, you can be by de facto blacklisted, because that tells future companies that you will complain about mistreatment, which, by the way, we are raised to do. You know what I mean? We are told as young people, as young women, like, speak up for yourself, be yourself, and speak up for yourself. But those two lessons specifically do not serve Black women in broadcasting, in the medium, at least in my experience. So I wish them well. I hope they get broke off with some change, and I hope that they are able to work in the industry again after this. I hope they are victorious. And you know what? It's real fucked up on behalf of BNC News, because I could also relate to working for a Black-owned media company with the naive hope / expectation that maybe they're going to treat me better than white folks, and they do not treat you better than white folks. They will still pay you less than men. They will still expect you to be sex goddess, coming to work and looking good, and gently deflecting men's sideways comments to you. I mean, women, especially Black women, are still very much expected to play the game, and if you don't play the game, you will be marked as somebody who does not play the game.
Well, yeah, look, we have a lot more to get to here at the Remix Morning Show. We can maybe even revisit this story and some of its context as well here in the next hour. But we do have to get to a break and get to somebody who plays no games with his work, and that is the ear doctor, who looks like he's back in class.
That's right. Yeah, I'm still getting my schooling on. Y'all know I got a African Studies degree from Brown.
Brown who?
Morris Brown. What you mean? The disrespect. And Kim, welcome to Black Power Media, where you can wear your robe, you can come out however you want, and as long as you give them the news, it's all good.
Thank you.
And since nobody's making no money, you don't have to worry about being paid less than anybody. It's equal opportunity brokenness around y'all.
Word. All right. Well, yo, I'm gonna give a little history lesson on spotlight one of our activists. Unlike, I always do a musician, we're gonna spotlight a lot of different people here on the Black Power Media. So let's get to it.
Right on. Remix.
What's good, everybody? What's good, everybody? I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, as you can see, representing with my man, Martin Luther King. You know what it is. But anyway, welcome out once again. Please make sure y'all hit that like, subscribe button. Today, I was like, who can we talk about? Who can we give an artist spotlight to that's actually been in the arts, been in activism, did some things for the people? And I was like, how about we show some love for the sisters? Let's start off with this sister right here. She goes by the name of Queen Mother Moore. She was born July 27th, 1898, made a transition May the 2nd, 1997. She was a civil rights leader and Black nationalist who was friends with such civil rights leaders as Marcus Garvey, Nelson Mandela, Winnie Mandela, Rosa Parks, Jesse Jackson. She was a figure in the American Civil Rights Movement and founder of the Republic of New Africa. That's right. She was born in Louisiana. Her parents died at age when she was like 4 years old. Her grandma took her. Her grandma was born in slavery. She got her granddad, who was lynched at the time, and the grandma had to take care of 4 kids plus her. And by the age of 15, she started doing hair, Queen Mother Moore. So after she watched the speech by Marcus Garvey, she moved to Harlem, New York. She became a member of the UNIA, which, as you know, is the Universal Negro Improvement Association. And she was pretty much, she came there and became a member. After she became a member, she got stock in the Black Star line boats, along with becoming leader of the Civil Rights Movement. She also appeared in the Million Man March with Jesse Jackson. She was also founder of the president of the Universal Association of Ethiopian Women, as well as founder of the Committee of Reparations for Descendants of U.S. Slaves, founding member of the Republic of New Africa to fight for self-determination, land, and reparations. Also founded the Eloise Moore College of African Studies, Mount Addis Ababa in Parksville, New York. But the college was burnt down in the 70s. But she's known for her African American reparations, and she's been operating organizations out of Harlem, the Universal Association of Ethiopian Women, and she promoted reparations till her death. So big up to Queen Mother Moore, once again, giving her love for the day. This is Black Power Media. This is the RemiX Morning Show, and that's what it is. Now let's get back to the morning show. Yeah.
I just always appreciate these shouts to legends, because it's just a reminder of how little of the issue, how little relevance the issues that they work with hold today. Like, we've overcome so much that issues of reparations and nationalism and internationalism and African solidarity just irrelevant at this point in 2021. So I appreciate that, and we appreciate Queen Mother Moore for helping us get to this level of total freedom that we enjoy today. So shout out to her.
When I owned a pizza place, I had a pizza named after her. So big up to Queen Mother Moore.
Right. Also, Queen Mother Moore, which we did mention, was a communist, part of the Communist Party for a number of years. But you're right. She's particularly in nationalist circles. She is a legend, in terms of her work, her organizing, the things that she was involved in, and like you said, that spanned from everything from women's rights, women's liberation, to Black nationalism, Black liberation. Whatever she could do to move the dial for Black liberation, she was involved in. So yeah, there needs to be more written about Queen Mother Moore. That's
right. All right, catch you on next break.
Right on. Thank you very much. Hey, and speaking of Jesse, since he was, and I wonder if the way, I don't know, Ear Doctor
did. Oh, and he mentioned,
because in fact, well, because the question that I actually had, because he said that she was at the Million Man March with Jesse Jackson, and I was wondering who wrote that, and if Minister Farrakhan would feel a kind of way about that. Like, what you mean?
Would Queen Mother Moore feel a certain way? Would Queen Mother Moore feel a certain way about that?
How about that?
Yeah. I mean, she might have worked with all those folks, but she was definitely left of and far more nationalist than Jesse Jackson and Farrakhan, to be honest.
Because I remember the Million Man March. I skipped school that day to go to the Million Man March in defiance of what Minister Farrakhan told, that women should not come. And I'm like, what? Anyway, Mama, I'm skipping school today. We going down to DC for the Million Man March, and anyway, but I don't remember any women speakers, so I said that's why I mentioned that. But if she spoke,
no, I don't think she spoke. No. And I think you're right that there weren't. Honestly, I don't. I was there that day also. I don't remember if
I was there. Was also.
That the? See, we were all BPM was united before we were even united. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. I was down there.
But I honestly don't remember. I know that obviously I remember there was a lot of discussion and backlash. I don't remember. Did Farrakhan actually say women shouldn't come, or that they should?
Yeah.
I remember that. Yes,
it was supposed to be a bail atonement. I mean, but there were women. I mean,
there were women there. I know.
Yeah, we brought when we came with the comrade. We was in Malcolm X Grassroots at the time, and one of the leading sisters in the organization, we all jumped in a van together and came. And I will say for the day though, it was very sort of one of those day of love, right? It was like, folks were very supportive, loving, caring, all that kind of good stuff. One of my only negative takeaways was they started passing around them garbage bags for the money. And then Farrakhan's speech part of his speech was on numerology.
Yeah,
and I was
he went.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? What's going on? You got an international audience and you talk about what right now? So, my bad.
Oh, shit.
Well,
but to the credit, to the credit of the nation, I know we're not really on this topic, but I just want to get this out. To the credit of the Nation of Islam, this is one of the things around the nationalist politics that people refuse to understand, that there was no other organization, as much as the Nation of Islam has been pilfered, and sometimes rightfully so, but as much as the Nation of Islam is a minority religious organization in an overwhelmingly Black Christian community, has been vilified by mainstream media, even amongst revolutionary nationalist communities, their involvement in Malcolm's assassination, all of that taken, the death of their leader and the sort of rebirth under Farrakhan. No other organization in the Black community could have pulled off what they pulled off because of their total submersion within working class Black communities, right? For all their faults and everything else, people do not recognize the fact that for all their shortcomings and everything else, that underlying it all, which has never been fully developed, is the potential, right, of a radical organization that never radicalized for various reasons, but they are totally immersed in the day-to-day life of a lot of Black folks, and that's who their main membership is. It is working class Black people, poor Black people.
No, I think that's a really good point. And I remember I had a great time that day. I mean, and I remember specifically from Dr. Clark a lot of the criticism of that day and what was not done and all of that. But in the moment, I thought it was great, and I still smile when I reflect back on the way DC looked that day. I mean, I have never seen it that empty. White folks were terrified.
It was great.
Unfortunately, they didn't need to be, but but it was. I mean, it was great to see. I remember literally seeing bags and stuff blowing down the street, and it was like tumbleweeds, and it was like, wow, they really have scattered.
It was glorious. It was Black people everywhere. It was niggas in trees. I mean,
yeah. I mean, absolutely.
It was glorious. And then I just had an interesting thought, Jerry. You talk about how terrified the white folks were. What was that? October 16th, 1995. Do I have that date right?
Oh, wow.
Imagine
something like that. Yeah.
Imagine if it was that number of Black folks who had showed up to the U.S. Capitol. Imagine if all them niggas had went to the Capitol, like not to the mall, to the U.S. Capitol. It would have been a big, huge problem.
No, yeah, the only reason the nation. Yeah. So the only reason the nation got you remember when I mean, people won't remember, but again, at first that march was also vilified completely before it even happened, and basically the Black politicians, it felt like they struck a deal with white media, and they started talking about the march outside the context of the people who put it together. They started trying to make the march something different than what Farrakhan and all of these so-called leaders jumped on to get into being able to speak to that many people. But they totally tried to, and again, the march wasn't the most overtly politicized thing, the Day of Atonement and so forth, but it had a community feel to it, obviously. But they tried to take anything that was considered to be good about it, and place it in the hands of like others besides the Nation of Islam.
No, and the point about atonement was all I was going to say. That as a branded theme for the day, saved some of those Black pundits and maybe even the march itself. I mean, because the whole thing of Black men having to atone, and I even remember even then I was kind of like, and then I heard some of the other some of those other radical critical voices like Clark and others who were saying, atone for what? Like Clark was like, we are an unapologetic people. We don't owe anybody a damn thing. Like it's like atone for what? Anyway, but to your point, I mean, it was who else could have done that? I mean, that's the thing. And the only other thing, I'm sorry, that I wanted to mention was that they also tap into that undercurrent in Black communities or in the Black community of fury and radicalism and a desire for a radical message. So even if the message isn't as radical or radical in the ways that some of us would want, that's what's being tapped into. And that's what even had us, folks like me and others wanting to be there. Cause it was like, you may be saying a tone, but I'm here to build and to scare and to this and to that and whatever. So anyway, it was.
And during that time period, I think again, when I got really politicized, I don't know if we all went through the phase, I was an atheist before I was political, right? I knew that part about myself.
Oh, yeah.
But I still thought about joining the Nation of Islam. I still went to the mosque, went to a couple of sessions. I was like, spaceship theory. It's like, oh, well, maybe not. And then they still were talking about, Malcolm as an enemy. And this was like in probably the early 90s at that point. And so, that kind of stuff, it just, could never sort of, for various reasons, take that step. But the fact that the flirtation of it, of something that was from the outside looking in, right, relatively speaking, well-built organization with resources. And then that whole thing that still gets us in our community is that kind of fresh dressed for them. You know what I mean? Like still people looking like they clean, folks getting cleaned up, whether we like it or not. That still has a big impact on our community in terms of what we like, So all that stuff came, that came towards us. That was something that pulled us.
And I always used to, my bad. Go ahead.
Oh no, so I was because you mentioned like frightening white people. The best day forever for frightening white people, in my recollection, was the day of the Rodney King verdict. Because I was in New York, and in New York, again, slight segue, but in New York, they all the job, like all the announcements were like school was over early, jobs were letting people out. We all were like, me and my crew, we was like on the subway, we were about to go to Harlem for like a major protest or whatever. And it was just the most hilarious shit to see white people scamper around trying to get to the Long Island Railroad or wherever to get the fuck out of Dodge. It was just like this weird phenomenon. You're just looking around going like, what the fuck is happening right now? Folks were scattering to get out of New York City because they thought it all was about to go down kind of shit. So
because they all know that there's that underpinning of, we know we're doing something to these people, and at any moment they might do what we think should be done to people doing this to people.
They would do it. Somebody did it to them.
Of course.
They expect it. They absolutely expect it to happen. And I think there's a document, and unfortunately I can't place it, but there's a document floating around that's been declassified that basically it's from, one of the government agencies, intelligence agencies, FBI, CIA, that says that they are basically surprised that niggas have not done a full uprising and gone to the suburbs and kicked in people's doors and, did a sort of the purge like to white folks. So anyway, but it's, yes.
That's
real quick about the Million Man March though. Sure. I just want to say this thought about the branding, that first of all, everybody who has done a million blank march post 1995, since the Million Man March, that has not been affiliated with the nation, needs to run Mr. Farrakhan a check, because that has been brilliant branding that has been utilized over and over again. I mean, they did a Million MAGA March. Isn't that basically what January 6th, I think, was originally framed as? Like the Million MAGA March, like. So yes, yes, whoever was the brainchild behind Million Blank March, run him a check.
Kamal, dust off your intellectual property law and let's
if he trademarked it, he probably could do a couple of lawsuits. I remember the Million Youth March in it was with Khalid Muhammad had the Million Youth March. He was trying to make that run for a while, and that was in Harlem, and I remember like Giuliani was mayor, and that they gave a time of like and they bum rushed the stage. The cops,
I remember that, yeah,
bum rushed the stage that day to make the show like this, to have that battle of like who was in charge. It didn't get the turnout of, obviously, it's the Million Man March, so there wasn't a lot that could be done against the police force that day. But they quickly, that was a huge deal. Like again, And white folks were scared shitless because they were thinking in Harlem there was going to be millions of black folks gathered in one area, plotting revolution. You know what I mean? Plotting a revolt. So.
Well, one thing that is important to remember that I think people who tried to use the branding didn't get right is that before the day, I mean, the Million Man March was very well organized for a very long time and involved a lot of grassroots. Yeah, I mean, it was like a lot of grassroots church visits and local media. I mean, they put in a lot of work to make sure that day went the way it did. And a lot of people, you know, we all tend to mess up on these things. We just say, well, we'll just grab. Oh, wow. Okay. Kalanji, what is this? He came out of Mao's Long March, which took place October 16th. Oh, right on. Oh, right on. Check that out. What? Now, did Farrakhan know he was doing this? Oh, you can't see the screen, Kim? My bad.
Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. There's a comment. There's Kalanji Chang. Okay, yes.
Kalanji's comment. Yeah. About Mao and Farrakhan. That would be interesting. I've never heard that actually, and I'd be amazed if that was done on purpose, but it probably was. So shout out to them for that too.
And mind you, y'all, hundreds of thousands of Black people were mobilized pre-social media, really, good email. I mean, Bama's had AOL, I think, but it wasn't, the availability to proliferate the information was very much word of mouth and very much spread along Black media, right? So it just think about what a feat that was to pull off at the time and for the amount of
and the final call. It was the final call, right?
That's right.
To get the newspapers, it was their newspaper.
That's right.
That's right.
And the street organizing, flyers and windows, flyers, getting buses. That was grassroots organizing, quote unquote, at its finest in terms of mobilizing masses of people to get someplace because they did it block by block, you can say, literally.
Wasn't Get on the Bus Spike Lee's movie? Wasn't that about the Million Man March?
Yep. Exactly.
Spike fucked that one up too, but that's nothing to say.
Well, he tried. I don't know if he tried to fuck it up, but he might.
Look, I know. So let's come back to the Jesse Jackson segue because the point I was getting at, there's a Jesse Jackson story. Yeah, it's all right. Hey, like Clark used to say, we're never off topic. We're going to talk around the subject to talk about the subject.
Got it.
So we'll come back to him in a second. I see the ear doctor's ready to come back. Let's bring him back and get back on track, so to speak. Pun intended. With the DJs and the tracks, get it? See this that high.
You didn't know you were doing it at the time.
Nice. Come on, that's Mama's Biscuits. He got them lyrics. Stop playing.
By the way, the founders of Mama's Biscuits were also at the Million Man March.
Okay.
Even before we knew we was going to be Mama's Biscuits. So there it is. BPM and Mama's Biscuits was already together. See,
it was Mama's Flour. All right. It was pre-biscuits.
You don't got to explain the joke. Okay. We got the joke. Okay. Whether it was funny or not, but we got
some people a little slow.
Was y'all dressed alike, Jared? Was y'all dressed like a gang, the Mama's Biscuits gang?
No, we weren't like Wu-Tang. We didn't have it all organized like that with our shirts and everything. But
so I'm gonna take y'all to a BPM flashback. So travel with time with me. Let's go.
Yes, sir. It's the remix.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Don't mean to ruin your day or what you're pursuing. Go and get your dreams, go and get your team, and you gonna shine just like a sunbeam. All right, let's go. So let's take you to a time. Well, you know what happened? It's a lot of people having a local voting and people going out voting for this, that, and the third person. So I was going back in time and looking at an old old show called The Backlash of Africana Collective. Number 5, The Ballad or the Bullet. Is voting still a tool in 2020 with Dr. Jared Ball? So that's the question. Is voting still relevant in this day? So let's take a piece of that and see what Jared was all hyped about. Let's go.
So what I've been keeps asking is for where is the argument laid out that says voting on the basis of that one issue will materially benefit the collective of African people in this country, overriding all of the other issues that we won't get addressed by this party that I quickly outlined before. In other words, if we had gotten one more Supreme Court judge, or if we had gotten even several hundred more federal court judges across the country, would that be enough to overturn all of the inequality on the job, in wealth, in housing, in healthcare, in education, in AFRICOM, in wars, in police violence, in mass incarceration, in surveillance, snitching on whistleblowers like Obama did, putting Latinos in cages and deporting like Obama did more than Trump? I mean, that's what I'm saying. So all of those issues we're supposed to say, no, because we have to get one more Supreme Court justice on the bench. And then as Moyne points out, that doesn't really end up benefiting anybody anyway. So when people like me come around and say, let's organize differently, use the vote differently, and heighten the contradictions, heighten the struggle, become more militant, we're beaten back and berated by even some of the luminaries I mentioned by name in my essay, come online and berate us with hostility as if we're the enemy for advocating something that has a clear historical lineage through Du Bois, Malcolm, Assata, so many others, and we can name and go on. So
that is his spill. So yes, that is his spill, Dr. Jared Ball. Here's the question. Is it still relevant in this day in 2021 going into 2022? Is voting still getting us ahead as a people? Let's talk about it. Let's bring back in the morning show host. Yeah. All right.
Well, I definitely appreciate you bringing that clip up. If for no other reason, it's very BPM of us to have not at all mentioned these elections.
Exactly.
Like I was thinking, like, dang, I haven't thought 2 seconds about this joint. But so
you know what I'm saying? I mean, another thing, we haven't talked about the whole Facebook going into the Meta thing. I don't know if we talked about that either.
Only in passing a little bit ago, because I mentioned briefly he was talking about changing the name a little bit ago. But you're right, we haven't really, he's metaing,
so
Facebook.
But the question is voting still doing us any good?
And I think that's a great question. If I could just quickly to set the context for what I was saying there, this was actually in response to Dr. Greg Carr, who at the time was aggressively online, verbally abusing me and some other colleagues around our argument around voting. And his argument, among one of them, which I will contend is still among the more absurd, was that political prisoners would prefer a Democrat get in and put in federal judges who might look favorably upon their cases, which is an argument I've never heard in the political prisoner discussion. But his other argument, specific to what I was saying there, was that the old routine of we'll get more federal judges and Supreme Court liberalism on the Supreme Court, and that will benefit. And I was citing a Yale law professor's work who says that is exactly what does not happen historically in terms of the benefit of putting liberals on the Supreme Court, helping people downstream. And I was asking Carr and others, and I'm still asking Carr and others for evidence to support that argument, which I've not seen. And I know he's a law, he's also a lawyer. So I was inviting some research that he might have seen that I wouldn't have seen in his studies, and I've still, so anyway, that's where that's the context around that specifically, even beyond the big question of is voting still valuable.
Okay. Well, before I get out of here, I wanted to say that your room has come a long way, Jared. I like the artwork that you developed over the years, because anyway, catch y'all later.
The white walls, I used to hear a lot about that, so I had to get some Donnie and Assata on my wall.
I was going to say, speaking of voting, not too much, want to be like, we can have a larger discussion at some point, but in Atlanta, the local elections, Kasim Reed, who has been a force in Atlanta for decades and decided to run for mayor again, seemingly did not even make the runoff. Which was shocking to a lot of people, including myself, because he had so much resources, was getting so much press attention. Polls were suggesting that he was the leading candidate. But in the end, people were like enough is enough. And so that small, tiny victory which has nothing to do with liberation. I can drink my coffee with a little smirk on today. So
who won?
Felicia Moore is the leading candidate, and it seems that they're going to be a runoff. And a city council person right now seems to be in second place. So it seems like going to be a runoff between those two people.
And are they any good?
No, they're both garbage.
Okay. Thank you very much for that analysis.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically
They're both garbage.
Coming from Kamau Franklin, garbage. Kamau said they garbage. I believe him. Real quick, in Virginia, obviously,
Sure.
what people are talking about this morning is the defeat of Democratic gubernatorial candidate Terry McAuliffe to political neophyte. That's the word for new, right? Not novice. You know, sometimes, y'all. I read the thesaurus more than I actually read in the library. But anyway, so political neophyte Glenn Youngkin is victorious. He's never held before elected office. He used to run the Carlyle Group. He's a big multi-millionaire. He's a rich song.
Did you say the Carlyle Group?
I did. Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. That is the
So do you remember? I'm sorry to cut you off, but one of my favorite stories about the Carlyle Group, for people who don't know, this warmongering venture capital investment group that owns a lot of military industrial complex stuff. The Bush family was highly involved. I mean, there's a lot. But one of my favorite stories was that when Michael Moore's Fahrenheit 9/11 came out, the Carlyle Group bought the Lowe's movie theater chain just to keep it out of those theaters. I was like, that's gangster. That's what I'm talking about. You can make your movie and I'll just buy up all the theaters.
Damn.
You can't put it in the joint. I was
Nobody
like, that is
will see
gangster right there. You're not going to talk shit about our money-making war machine. So, anyway, sorry, Kim. I just could, anyway.
New governor of Virginia, that guy, Glenn Youngkin. And basically this is seen less as well, it's absolutely a victory for Republicans. However, historically speaking, it's not uncommon, especially for a bellwether state like Virginia, like whoever's the party in control in DC, the opposite party usually wins the gubernatorial race in Virginia. So that what happened last night is not necessarily unusual, but the way that the Democrats is way deep in their feelings about this shit is hilarious. And for a lot of us who could really care less about Republican or Democrat, I was watching last night's results come in laughing my ass off, because shout out to the Liberation Party candidate for governor in Virginia, Princess Blanding. It is apropos that Terry McAuliffe lost by 2 percentage points from what the latest tallies indicate, and I believe Princess Blanding got 2% of the vote.
So is that going to be the new narrative? It's not the Democratic Party policies or behavior. It's these
always going to be the third party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she got 2% and therefore
she ruined it for us. She
ruined freedom for everybody.
But Princess told him, she said, listen, if that's the case, then why don't you run a better candidate? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get mad at me for taking 2% of the vote. Why don't y'all run on better policies? Like the fact that they had to dust Terry McAuliffe off from a decade ago, like just goes to show you that the Democrats are not grooming new talent, or perhaps the case is they are kneecapping their new talent, as we saw happen in Kentucky with Charles Booker. Something similar is happening in Kentucky with an open congressional seat with the state senator there, a Black woman by the name of Attica Scott. She is also being hampered by the Democratic establishment, who are running a more centrist candidate against her. So, the Democrats keep insisting on cannibalizing their younger progressive base. So, okay, if y'all want to keep losing elections, that's on y'all, man. That's on y'all. And shout out to a person who mentioned in the chat that India Walton, the Democratic socialist who was poised to become the first ever Democratic Socialist mayor of the city of Buffalo, it appears as though she has not won, though I don't think that race has been officially called yet. So we're still watching that. But Byron Brown, who was the 15-year incumbent mayor of Buffalo, lost the Democratic primary back in June, made 2 attempts in the courts to get his name on the ballot. He was denied and instead ran a write-in candidate off a fictitious political party he just made up. Like, I think he's called like the Buffalo Freedom Party or something. It's like, what? So he made up this party and initiated a big write-in campaign. Of course, he was aided by the Democratic establishment, big developer money in Buffalo, and Republicans who were not interested in seeing a black woman Democratic socialist.
So wait a minute, when you lose your party's primary, you don't fall in and support your party's nominee? You start a new party and run against her?
Yes.
How
and take all the money from the supposed right of you? Take all wait, you take all that money that you're supposed to be opposed to?
Kim, did I get this from you? The caucasity? Did I get that from you? The caucasity of that?
Possibly. I have said caucasity, though I don't have the trademark on.
You get that one trademark.
Yes.
Shout out to whoever I got that from. Then whoever started that joint, because the caucasity,
big time
of that move, I'll just start a new party. It's
but again, but then Democrats like don't shake your head, don't shrug your shoulders, don't look around the room like with quizzical looks on your face about how did we lose. Like, you keep losing because you are not growing your base. You keep trying to extend right and center when really the untapped portion of your base is to the left. But y'all are not interested in pushing left progressive policies. So guess what? We just won't come out to vote for y'all. Fuck it. Because
I'm sure even though she lost, I'm sure that support that she got from Nancy Pelosi and Claiborne, who came down to Buffalo to support their Democratic primary person.
That never happened.
I was doing the Jared.
Okay.
I was doing the sarcasm for Jared.
Now, but she did get endorsed by Chuck Schumer. I was kind of puzzled by that. I'm like, Chuck Schumer, really? Like, Chuck Schumer did weigh in for an endorsement, right? Of course, she had the standard AOC. Bernie Sanders came to town to stump for her. She had everything working against her, basically. They all formed like Voltron to keep her out.
Wow.
So fuck them.
And real local. No one cares about this but me, probably on this program. But the when we do our work in Atlanta, in Southwest Atlanta, the city council race, Joyce Shepard, who is a supporter of Cop City, she is in a runoff and probably had only 30 more votes than a person that came right behind her. So to me, that shows a little bit of local power and organizing, and even her bad policies potentially knocking her out. So I'm gonna have to.
I know folks like doors. Come on, I know folks like you have made it an issue, but to what extent was Cop City or is Cop City
I think the whole idea of
an issue here.
Yeah, I think the whole idea of so-called crime and policing and all that became a big issue in this election. Probably the idea of crime was supposedly number one, but number two on the list of, I guess, mainstream media was gentrification. And so I think all of that stuff was mixed in here, which I think had an impact on Kasim Reed. Even though, again, I don't, the other candidates are nowhere great, but they are not Kasim Reed, right? And so I think that had an impact. I think the closeness of the race for a Joyce Shepard, who was an overt supporter of police and Cop City, had an impact on some of the race here in Atlanta. So I think people are, again, Black folks, I think, are scared of losing the city. Doesn't mean that they came out in droves to support the progressive candidates, but it means in terms of registering what some of the issues are, there's that feeling of like, for whatever Atlanta has never been, but claimed to be in terms of some Black Mecca, that people see the sort of drip of like, this city is not what it's pretending to be. Because even here in this, like, at Morehouse and Spelman, those students have also done a similar strike to what's happening in Howard around issues of housing and so forth, and have faced administration ire for daring to do so, right? So all that stuff, I think, is bubbling to the surface. What it means organizing on the ground and or electoral politics is always yet to be seen.
Well, for sure, one thing we can be confident in and still gain comfort from is, regardless of these elections, we still have folks like Jesse on the case, who was just out here and apparently, is according to the Griot, secured a verbal agreement from Howard University's administration to allow students to end their protest without facing expulsion. The arrangement also guarantees an investigation of every dorm room containing hazardous mold. He apparently, following the meeting, Reverend Jackson returned to the Blackburn Center to update students on the progress made with the administration. Moments before the activists could get a full play-by-play, Jackson fell and cut his head. The 80-year-old civil rights icon was rushed to the hospital by his team to receive care for the wound and check for any other injuries. But anyway, so we wish him well in a speedy recovery. But Jesse seems still engaged in, playing the role he's been playing for a long time. And if there's, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no, I was going to say this just in was that the reason he fell was that he slipped on his own pile of bullshit. So that had something to do with it. So the idea that Jesse Jackson, you okay, Kim? I shocked Kim.
It looks like it.
I was like, how is that possible, B?
Come out. We don't listen. I mean, granted, I root for Joe Biden to fall down the stairs. I don't root for Jesse Jackson to fall down.
I didn't say I wanted him to fall. I just gave a reason as to why he fell. There's two different things. I didn't want to, there was an opening there that I just had to take because
Kamau didn't come out that time.
Why is Jesse coming in? And obviously we don't know all the terms of what may be settling this issue, but an investigation of all the rooms that have mold, not a plan to fix, to clean all of the rooms that have mold, not a plan for better housing for Howard students. Those are the plans that need to be, not a plan that says a new $50 million or whatever to fix and build dorms. Those are the victories. An investigation is almost like saying they're going to create a commission. The famous victory is like, we're going to create a commission to study this issue more. Yeah. Now shut the fuck up and go back to work. So
well, one of the things that I thought was interesting is that according to one of the student leaders who was interviewed for this story, and hopefully we'll have more on Friday when April Silver comes back, but the quote here says that we got an answer, but it's not the answer we're looking for. It's not the answer that we need. Because one of the things that I was looking for and did not see in this story was who arranged for Jackson to be speaking on behalf of the students. And I did not see it. Admittedly, I could have missed it, but and even as I'm looking here again, I'm not seeing where he was invited by students to play this role. And so to my point, following where Kamau's, headed here is that this is his old game. He comes in, cuts a deal that is beneficial to him, to his class of the Black community, and then that's it. And often he was getting a check for it as well, in terms of like corporate diversity and hiring and stuff like that. So I'm not sure of the arrangement there, but I am happy to see at least one student leader is saying, "Look, that's okay, cool, but that's not what we're asking for. That's not what we're ultimately trying to get." And I hope Jesse continues to push for more to the extent that he stays involved. So,
yeah, I'd be. I'm sorry, Kim, go ahead.
Oh, so I addressed this yesterday on my show. Y'all go to Burn It Down with Kim Brown. The most recent video is at the very top. Go to maybe like the last, let's say 25 minutes of the program where we kind of flushed out what the situation at Howard is happening. FYI, sidebar, did y'all know Rolly Roll got a new joint? It's called Black Star Network. Did y'all know this?
Yes, in fact, it came up. Yeah.
We'll come back to that because I didn't know that. So anyway, Black Star Network, they have a channel here on YouTube, carried 3 days ago the student press conference. The student organizers gave a press conference where they spoke, their representation spoke. They do have an attorney. The attorney that's representing them, unfortunately, his name escapes me, but he's the same attorney that represented the students in 1989 for the uprising at Howard University there. April Silver can probably give this man's name. I can't call his name. But according to him, during the press conference, he detailed how students, the attorney, along with the student organizers, have made numerous attempts to sit down and mediate the situation with the administration. Wayne Fredericks, who's the president of Howard University, and the administration outright refused to meet with the students, didn't even want to hear nothing from them, said that until they leave Blackburn, he's not going to discuss anything with them. There was initially a proposal floated for amnesty, where the university said that no students participating in the Blackburn takeover would face, suspension or expulsion. So insofar as they stopped speaking to the media, right? Like there was some bullshit conditions attached to this amnesty deal, at least the initial amnesty deal, with the students rejected. So I said that to say, given how far the students have gone so far in this, the fact that they already have their own legal representation, negotiating on their behalf with the university, I can't see how Jesse could have just swooped in and secured a verbal agreement, because these kids are too sharp for that. You understand? Like they are not going for the okie doke of Jesse of old. You dig? Like I'm sure they're not going to agree to anything unless it's in writing and unless it addresses their issues beyond their concern about being expelled or punished from school.
And that was my quick follow-up was, I'm sure the students did not get on the phone and think about, of all the people they need to call in to negotiate, like they're going to call Jesse Jackson at 80 years old to come in and say, we need a negotiator who knows who we are, who knows our issues, and has always been on the right side of radical students trying to do takeovers. Let's get Jesse Jackson down here. I'm almost positive, like, I'd say, I bet the house that the administration got on the phone, asked Jesse. They probably went down the list. Jesse, Sharpton, whoever's leading Black Lives Matter, I don't know, like somebody to come down and do the negotiation. Jesse was the first to respond because he's looking for something to do at this stage.
I know, but you think the Gen Z kids was tripping about, you know what I mean? Like Gen Z, I don't know.
Apparently, he was also joined by Reverend William Barber and Reverend Mark Thompson, who's again, maybe Reverend Barber because of his more recent popularity, but Mark Thompson still being relevant to this generation seems odd to me as well. So I'm and then to Kamau and to Ear Doctor, this article in the Griot concludes by saying the issues highlighted on the Hilltop have trickled down to other HBCUs. Thus far, Spelman, Morehouse, Clark Atlanta, and Morris Brown have joined the fight to improve campus conditions. So, as usual, DC will drag Atlanta into civilization. By the way, in a George Bushian kind of moment, this story does point out that Jesse Jackson's daughter, Santita, retweeted the Griot's reporting about her father's accident and said, quote, family, he's resting comfortably and doing well. We thank you for your prayers. Fighting for us is what he'll always do. His goal is to ensure the well-being of Howard students. And then hashtag mission accomplished, she tweeted. So like, as I'm saying, that's very George Bushian in the mission accomplished claim, when clearly, as Kim, you're reporting, and we're also just reading and hearing from others, they're not. And even this own story is saying the
I wonder what
students themselves are saying, this isn't what we wanted.
I wonder what it's like to be the second tier sort of civil rights leadership kids, and you still got to make the money off of what the parents did. I'm just saying, like, Jesse was not first, he was second tier,
Compared to who?
68
King and Malcolm.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, in the 60s, but how about 88 Jesse?
Well, I mean, let's just say he stepped into the leadership role, but it wasn't, but at that particular point in time, it wasn't like it was the fanfare of like back in the day. Like, Jesse has always been a poor man's Dr. King at best, right? If you want to use a description. But I just, but the kids got to prosper. It was like Al Sharpton's kids, or, that kind of thing. It's like, what do you do as the second tier civil rights kids?
Well, don't forget, Jesse.
Nobody's getting. Didn't Jesse Jr. go to jail?
That's correct. Yes, he did go to jail for little time corruption. Yes, he did.
He bought Michael Jackson's glove with the money or some crazy shit.
Something along those lines. Yes.
Yeah, that's what he did. That's what he did.
He not only was he black, but his crimes are not big enough to avoid prison. He exactly. Just black and petty enough to go to jail. You gotta
Exactly.
steal bigger to avoid prison. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
One last thing about the Howard thing that I just want to throw
go
in
ahead.
real quick, y'all. I mean, again, I am taking this article in the Griot with a big grain of salt because just from what I've seen in recent days, it seemed that the students and the administration were extremely far apart in coming to any kind of agreement. And in the way that the administration at Howard University has responded, I told y'all off the top that yesterday evening they sent out a tweet saying, basically blaming the students for the Blackburn takeover as the reason why some of the Sodexo food workers were let go from the cafe, which is fucked up. Like, that is so fucked up for them to even say that. And allegedly, reporters who write for the campus newspaper, The Hilltop, are being censored by President Wayne Frederick. So when April comes on, please ask her about The Hilltop.
Absolutely.
All the things.
Absolutely. And by the way, Kim, if you are available and interested, you can join us Friday morning with Brother Kaba and April Silver. If you feel like, bathrobing Kim again Friday morning, you're welcome.
I mean, but y'all,
anyway,
I can't be house coating up y'all show. You feel me? Like,
just letting you know you're always welcome. But I think that's a good point. And plus, look, President Fredericks has to. I mean, look, he's making $1 million and change a year. You know what I'm saying? He can't. He can't let these people just out here be running their mouths in the old kind of way. You got that. That's big money. But speaking of avoiding prison, and to reflect back on a previous story, in having the ability to enjoy some local news. Yesterday was the anniversary of the 1979 November 2nd liberation of Assata Shakur from what was it, Clinton Correctional, right? Wasn't it?
Yep.
And this is just to shout that out. This is from our unofficial sister channel, Afro Marxist, has this bit of video footage I thought would be great to reflect on as
well, between 1 and 4 p.m. on Friday,
it was being discussed.
Time at Clinton. Apparently, Joanne Chesimard had some visitors who came to this gate right here at the edge of the institution. Their ID was checked. They went in to visit her in South Hall. South Hall is our maximum security building here. We have 17 women in that building. They pulled guns, were able to overpower a couple of officers, a male and female officer, and get her out. Put the officers in the back of the van, and they drove the van across an unfenced area in back of the institution to the adjoining Hunterdon State School. There, they got out of the van and fled in vehicle or vehicles, and the officers freed themselves and were uninjured.
Well, how many were there?
More than one is the best information. They're interviewing.
How are they able to get in here with guns?
The questions are great.
Investigation.
There's a sign right there that says anyone coming in is subject to being searched.
That's true. I don't know how they did it. I think our investigation will determine that.
Magical Negroes.
Yes.
At some point, didn't they have to sign in here and show something?
Yes, they have to be on an approved visitors list. These people showed ID and were on the visitors list. They were able to come in that way.
Well, then you must have identities on them.
Yes, that's why they're looking for them. I don't have them. The state police are doing the investigation now.
Were the guards harmed in any way?
No injuries. They were both unharmed, shaken but unharmed. But the people who went out with Chesimard and Chesimard are considered armed and dangerous.
These people had visited her before?
I don't know. I don't know at this point.
Can you give us any idea
No.
who the people are that checked in here and showed their IDs and were permitted to enter?
I don't know, Joe. Do we have anything on that yet?
I don't think we can discuss that now. That's part of the.
Look at that 70s jacket, boy.
Well, we've got 3, possibly 4 people.
Men or women?
No, men. 3, possibly 4 people. We're not sure of the 4th, but the 4th may have been in one of the cars that waited outside.
We don't know.
Give us a description.
Black.
Black.
Description, black.
Concentrating right now.
Well, the initial search obviously concentrated in the immediate area. When something like this happens, and we got pretty fast notification of it, first our local barracks would be notified. They immediately notify headquarters, and then the wheels start turning with regard to notification of other agencies. Delaware Valley Search Plan goes into effect. That's a system whereby
I really kind of want to know who the reporter is, because the questions to me are hilarious.
Checkpoints. We brought our
I mean, the
helicopter.
sign right there says you got to get there. You got to sign in. Don't you know who they are?
obviously that, that effort failed at this point. The checkpoints are still in effect, of course, because there's still the possibility they may have holed up someplace waiting for dark.
Yeah.
So there's any number of local police and state police in the area at checkpoints watching for vehicles of that description. The vehicles haven't turned up, as they do frequently in situations like this, where they have a vehicle stolen and they drop it quickly and pick up another one. At this point, we still haven't located the vehicles, so we can assume they're either still in them or
Anyway, that was just some of the video. It's a great watch and reminder of it's hard to call it a grand victory, but certainly something that is I don't know, a victory, a great occurrence, and then cause shockwaves in their communities to this day, in fact.
And part of the follow-up of that was the whole Assata is welcomed here kind of movement. So folks, as they were looking for Assata, people were openly supporting her and saying she could be here, she's supported here, that kind of thing. I also want folks so this book, which they said it's $877. I was like, God damn, this must have been out of print for a while, which I used to have, but foolishly I let somebody hold and I never got it back. It's called The Big Dance, The Untold Story, Weatherman, Kathy Boudin, and the terrorist family committed the Brinks robbery murders. So this book was by a local reporter during the Brinks time period. And again, this is already known history. The same BLA crew that was responsible for Brinks expropriations were responsible for Assata's liberation. And though the book is written very much so from a mainstream white reporter who obviously condemns everything about the BLA actions and also does the white thing of not even focusing completely on the BLA, but instead focuses on the white counterparts, the helpers of the BLA actions, because they are far more important to them than they are the crazy black folks or whatever. But that's probably the only place I know in sort of a book that and even though, again, I think a lot of the stuff in there is the narrative is false. Some of the information is based on actual tapes and or videotapes by the FBI. So some of the language is real. So I say all that to say is it's one of the few places where you can actually get a description of what took place that day based on, let's say, investigative reports and so forth about how they did it. There might be some other places now, but that's one of the places that originally had it. Because if everybody remembers Assata's autobiography, if you were already politicized when you were reading it, one of your main reasons for reading it, of course, was not only just hearing her story, but of course, thinking you were going to hear the story about the prison break. And basically what you get is, one day I woke up in such and such and such. You're like, oh, man.
Such a setup. It was such a setup because I was definitely in that group. I was like, this is why I'm reading the book. I was like, okay, the poems, the backstory. Okay, I get it. I was young in the South. I got political, blah, blah, blah. I was like, tell me the story. And it's like, I woke up in Cuba. I was like, damn it.
And
you like reading it, like hold up though, like straight up though, reading it in order and slowly, patiently, like I'm going to get there, like it's gonna come, and they're like, nah. I was like, damn it, Assata, and I was like, how dare you say? Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
And I was gonna say, and folks know, again, this is all the convictions were had later on. One of the things that Sekou Odinga was convicted of was participating in the expropriation. And again, one of the things that later came out and talking about people who, let's say the Weather Underground and their support for Black Liberation Army, is that one of the tactics during that sort of second iteration of Black Liberation Army activity was that the getaway drivers were usually white, the white comrades, because the authorities were looking for Black folks. And that tactic worked in this scenario, in others, to help support the activities of the Black Liberation Army, including the liberation of Assata Shakur. So,
Absolutely. And that's why we continue to raise up, David Gilbert's name, Marilyn Buck's name. And of course, we invite people to check out our discussion with Sekou and Blood and Daruba in our soldier story segment with the BLA, members. But yeah, I mean, anyway, those are one of those moments where I kind of was like, I wish I would have been old enough to appreciate at the time and able to watch the local news and really enjoy seeing that,
Oh yeah.
Dude with his tie, his top button undone, like looking like, to me, he's looking stressed, like, damn, I'm out here, like I gotta answer these questions. And the dude's like, but the sign right there says you're supposed to get a sign in. And did they visit before? Like, do you have any information? Do you have a description? Black. Damn.
I will say too, going to Cuba a number of times and meeting and talking with Assata, it's one of those questions that I did not bring up. It was not like
me either.
It wasn't like, no, like, come on, girl, I'm in the movement. Give me a little, whatever, you know what I mean? It was like, you just don't talk about it. But you knew, I mean, that sister who is still to this day in Cuba, liberated, free, living a life, but cautious and under the idea that either officially the U.S., some crazy from the U.S. can try to scoop her, and worse, at any moment in time. That was a quick story. We were walking her back to her car at one point after sort of an evening of activities. And then she started driving us around, some of us who were down there. And she was stopped. She was telling some stories. And at some point, a bicycler came by and she sort of stopped. She sort of jumped up and she was like a certain kind of like martial arts stance. And for the rest of us, it was sort of like, oh shit, is it about to go down? Is Assata, oh shit, like that kind of thing. So it was like this sister was trained soldier. The folks that she worked with soldiers, these were real people doing a movement time period where that kind of organizing and action was happening in various ways, in various circles, various strategies. All tactics were on the table. And speaking to Ear Doctor's earlier segment, we weren't just thinking about voting by any stretch of the imagination in terms of what a movement activities involved. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Hey, same thing. The one time I got to meet her and pass through, it was the same kind of thing. There was a clear protocol being followed. It became clear there was a pattern of movement, or a style of movement, maybe not a pattern, I should say, but a style in terms of preparing where we would be, when she would show up, how she would do stuff. And so it was, and then Pompeo just, what was it, last year, raised the bounty to 2 million again, trying to encourage anybody to try to collect it. So, but to your point, same thing in that moment where I was talking trash to myself, like, I'm gonna sit her down, I'm gonna get the story. But in that moment where you sitting in a small group or whatever, and you have that chance, you look at her in her eyes, she's looking at you like, what you want to say? Like, what? And I was like, nah. It's like, nah, I'm not asking that question.
And there's no doubt that she has written about the account of what happened that day, right? It just has not been published, or maybe she's going to save it until after her passing and then give instruction for it to be published. But it when I see shit like with the Colin in black and white and the Fred Hampton, snitch movie that they made, it's like, God damn, like there's actually Black heroic stories out here that would look amazing on the big screen. But obviously Hollywood cannot be trusted to make these films, and unfortunately we don't have the filmmaking infrastructure in order to give a story like Assata's the credit and the justice that it would deserve in order to be made into a feature film. So I wish maybe
I'm sure that there is somebody in Hollywood, particularly with the success of the Fred Hampton film and some of the other things, that and within 3 to 5 years, I'm just thinking somebody's going to be playing the Assata character.
Hey, I'm saying it now. BPM, get the bail money set, because I'm going to get arrested. Protest, like there's going to be an arrest made. I'm going to shut that shit down by myself.
Come on, so Jared.
No, straight up, I'm not having it. You cannot. I will not. They will not. What did they do with what's her name and Nina Simone? You're not going to do all of these.
Oh Lord, with Zoe Saldana.
Zoe
prosthetic
Saldana.
nose.
You're not gonna Judas
Jesus.
and the Black Messiah. Assata is not going down. Spike got away with the Malcolm X joint. Is not. I'm clapping my hands on camera. It's not happening.
Come on,
So-
Jared. You're not in favor of that Ava DuVernay presents Assata, the story.
Oh my God.
You're not. That doesn't excite you.
Somebody end the show. Kim really trying to send me to the hospital this morning. There it is. Pookie Wood did it. That's it.
I'm thinking about which light skin
Red
actress
stand
is
for
gonna
cut.
play.
They're sending me. I'm coming to join you.
Tyler Perry presents the Assata Shakur story.
Which light skin actress is going to get to play Assata? I'm just curious.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, which one?
Straight up, Patreon, my bail money. Look, my wife has already said if you fool enough to get arrested, I'm leaving you there. So she's not helping me. So get the bail. No, seriously, straight up like that. It would be a major problem. I'm not going for it.
Tyler Perry presents.
Hey,
oh no, I'm looking for one. I'm sorry.
No. You looking for one? No.
Oh, here we go. Wait a minute. That's what I was looking for.
Oh.
That's what I was looking for.
That's it. That's the one that did it. Hey, look. Thanks everybody for joining us for the RemiX Morning Show here at Black Power Media. Thanks again to Kim, Kamal, May, the Ear Doctor, all the people in the remixes, all the chats. I'm calling 911. Morgan State. I'm testing that insurance today. I'm going to the hospital. I'll see y'all later.
RemiX.